Crew Pros, your single source for high quality, affordable home services. If you are remodeling, repairing, or replacing, Crew Pros are the professionals that can do the job no matter the size. If you are thinking of remodeling your kitchen or bath, needing a new HVAC system, plumbing repairs, flooring, or a complete roof replacement, call Crew Pros. Crew Pros, proud sponsor of the Grizz 901 podcast.
Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said I don't have that fire in my eye no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
What up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. We are hosted by Zach Jaworski State Farm, where they treat you like family. You're welcome, everybody. You're welcome for going 3 wide. I am your host, Daniel Greer. We have our other host with us, Ryan Meadows. What's up, Ryan?
Doing fine. At a job site, so didn't want to bless everybody with the horrible image of me in work clothes. So you get me in the dark again.
He's always in the dark, but we're going 3 wide, so we got our third musketeer. What's up, Nate?
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
What a fun week it's been. We kind of feel a little bit about Grizzlies basketball it's finally here, right? Like, I think that we actually might be on the cusp of having basketball in our lives again, and I can't wait. But Grizzlies Media Day, it was fun. It was a chance for Ryan and I to rub elbows with other people within the media, but it gave us a chance to finally be on the inside of what it is to be a media member and to kind of cover the Grizzlies. I know I talked to Ryan, briefly about it after the whole thing, and it was fun. It was an experience, and it was well worth the effort and the trying to get in on the inside. So I want to give a shout out to the PR team and the communications team with the Grizzlies, because honestly, they're doing great things over there, and what they did on Grizz Media Day. From all accounts, would be from the Grizzlies, like from their account, from like Grind City Media, who covers it as well. It was a spectacular show, and honestly, other fan bases have talked about it. So we want to talk a little bit more in depth about it. And so Ryan and I were there, so we're going to give a little bit of insight on what we saw and what kind of came out of it. And Nathan, as he always does, he's joining me now, but he's going to be pretty much the fan. He's going to be able to ask questions maybe that other fans are, wondering or maybe picking our brain. And so if you have anything, feel free to hit it in the chat. We'll be able to go ahead and answer any questions you have. But let's go ahead and get into it. Ryan, the first thing I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite moment of the entire day?
Anything involving Steven Adams was a pure delight. Because, this was our first time, and it was a really cool experience, but we knew we weren't going to get any real answers from anybody, right? And everybody was kind of towing the line around, speaking whatever. And then there's guys that come in who don't really care. No one cares about media people, let's be honest. If you're a professional athlete, you don't care about us, and I don't blame you 1 second. But Steven Adams really didn't care. But it was like in a fun, joking, like, I don't care, mate. Like, I like a mate counter, he probably was at 150 times he said it. But he was just loose, free, like, ask whatever you want on him. He doesn't care. He's going to give you whatever answer. So, of course, he was the highlight for sure, for me anyways.
Yeah, he was probably my highlight as well. And it was funny, like, one of the things that somebody asked him is, so what have you been working on in the off season? He was like, well, I've been trying to get a 6-pack, and it didn't happen, mate. just that little thing that he shared was very funny. because I think that we all take it a little too serious at times, and oftentimes in the media room, it was a little too serious, and the questions really weren't that hard hitting. Let's just be honest. And they weren't too, I guess, narrowing in and zeroing in on real questions that would produce real answers. And so that was a treat. It was good though to catch him. I wish Steven would have been later in the day. I wish he'd have been midway through, because I think we got him after Kleiman, Jenkins, and someone else, and then it was then it was Steven Adams. So he was very early in the day. And probably so because he's probably one of the vets that want to get him in there early. But Nathan, you're on the outside looking in. So you saw it from, I guess, all accounts. You were watching our feed, but also you're seeing the rest of Grizz Twitter, but, what's happening off of the Grizzlies in general. So what was your favorite moment or anything that kind of stood out to you?
I mean, it's always Steven Adams, but that's because he's just such a perfect fit for this team and this city. I love that when he was talking about shooting threes, he was like, yeah, I wouldn't say expect it, but go ahead and cheer for me when I do it, when it goes in. Like, that cracks me up, man. And I think I was more so wanting to see a lot of stuff around the injuries and roles for this team that still seemed really undefined. And
yeah.
I think that there was a lot that was going on that just gave me more questions than answers. I feel like you had to be in the room to get any kind of vibe check type of thing. So I'll let you guys sort of expound upon what you actually saw in there and let you answer some of my questions naturally, because I've got a bunch here of what certain tones were of fitness levels for guys was a big thing I was curious about, like anyone bigger, smaller, in a good way or a bad way, and certain stuff around that. But I'll sort of let you guys hit on it and sit here and continue to contribute nothing.
Yeah, so let's actually go that route. And I know we didn't plan on that, but I know if you have questions, I think that's important because, you're a fan just like we are, in all honesty. But we were there. And so I know you're probably asking a lot of the questions that fans have. So why don't we go that direction? Because there's no real way of doing this besides, hey, let's go one by one on the players. And that just sounds boring, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be here all day talking about Santi Aldama all the way down to, Killian Tilly area. So let's go ahead and answer some of the questions. And then, Ryan and I will definitely get in anything we know we don't get to. So what questions you have?
Well, since you already brought it up, there seemed to be a lot of Santi hype going around. In all seriousness, that seemed to be a real topic of conversation within people that were in the press room. Is that something that seemed like, hey, he's going to have a real role this year? Like, it wasn't just a summer league flash in the pan. They expect him to contribute, or do you think that's just some talk, some preseason hype stuff?
I think it's real. Ryan, I'll let you express on it. Go ahead.
I think it's talk because, I mean, you pay attention to media days for all the other teams. Everyone always talks about a player like that. Like the Thunder are hyping up Trey Man's summer. Like, come on. I certainly don't buy into anything like that. I mean, he was mentioned by almost everybody. Like it was a PR stunt. I mean, Taylor Jenkins mentioned him. Kleiman mentioned him. Bain mentioned him. Adams mentioned him. Dylan mentioned him. Man, the summer, I just don't buy into that stuff. And everybody's like, oh, he got bigger, more muscle. I certainly didn't see that from him, being whatever it was, 50 to 100 feet away from him. I didn't certainly see him got exponentially bigger where all of a sudden he's going to be able to play more defensively, because when he did his interview, that was mainly the thing he talked about, right? Like he wanted to get bigger and stronger so he could hold up defensively against bigger players and just be more consistent from three. I didn't really notice a sizable difference with him. I don't buy it, but that doesn't mean he's not going to have moments this year. Because everybody in the media room, everyone kept asking, well, who's going to play the four without Triple J there? And I just think it's coach and player speak to just throw a bunch of guys' names out there. I think they have an idea of what they're going to do already, but you're just not going to get concrete answers like that. And I think I knew that going into it, that you probably weren't going to. I guess I didn't understand the full extent of how little you were going to get out of coaches and players when you asked about that kind of stuff. So I don't buy into it at all. But not to say that he's not going to have a moment or two. I don't expect him to all of a sudden be a 15 to 20-minute rotation player. I don't see that.
Yeah. So, one, there was really just one person that was asking that question. Let's just be honest. We won't name names that were asking, I think, to every person. So I'm not sure why, but every person got asked the same question, whatever reason. Second of all, Ryan, do you remember who asked the hard hitting question of exactly what did you work on in the off season to develop your game? What aspect of your game did you work on the most? Who asked that question?
I believe it was a guy who does betting picks as well. His name's Danny G, and he's really bad at those picks.
Oh, that's awkward. That's awkward. Well, Danny G is no longer with us. Unfortunately, he got kicked out by we'll just say the higher ups. He was asked to not come back. So it's just me. It's my real name. It's my government name. But yeah, I asked the question because I felt like nobody else was asking the question of like what aspect of your game were you working on? Like, what is it? Because you have, like, to me as a player, a former player of any kind of small level, like there's things that you work on, whether it's, relationship or whether it's your work life or whether it's actually, sports. You have a focus in mind. What's one or two things that I'm going to work on? So I asked that question, and mainly it was all about, his, getting bigger so he could be better defensively. And mainly he talked about blocking shots and being good at the rim, which was, kind of important to see, especially, we have somebody that's not going to be there, that's going to be protecting at the rim. So that was different. And then also hitting shots. And that's what he said that him and Zaire worked on really a lot when he was out in Spain, was working on those shots. So that's all we have on Santi, honestly.
No, that's fair. And after the summer league stuff, it makes sense that he could develop, right, where he gets real minutes,
Right.
especially with Jaren out to start the year. But you just never know if, like Ryan says, that's coach speak, right?
Yeah.
Or if they're really going to fill in with BC, Tillman, the guys who they've gone to in the past. But speaking of Jaren being out, that was the next question I had, was the Jaren and Danny Green injuries. So obviously Danny Green's going to be out for the foreseeable future. His injury is much more serious, going to be much more long-term, but he's getting shots up in practice already. So with Jaren and Danny, mainly Jaren, obviously, because of how important he is to this team and the way they play, was there any ability to get a sense of, hey, these guys are going to be back sooner than we think, later than we think? Because we've got some mixed signals between Coach Jenkins and Jaren really within 24 hours of each other via Jenkins' interview. I believe it was, I'm not sure who it was with. It may have been Vernon. It was somebody. It was Grind City, somebody. I think it was Jessica Benson. It was Jessica Benson earlier in the day. And then Jaren had tweeted out, hey, or on Instagram, I'm going to be back sooner than you think. Right. Were you able to get any kind of gist of where that was actually going, being in the room? Did it seem like Jaren's like primed, ready to go, or no?
Yeah. So mainly the first thing Jaren said is somebody asked him, he's like, you saw me walk in here. I didn't have a limp. That was the main comment that he had on that. I don't know. I don't really have a timetable set in mind. I've always said December 1st is kind of ideal for me. And me and Ryan spoke on that in the last podcast that came out on Monday. But the Danny Green thing, he is climbing. He said that Danny Green will play regular season minutes. Like, so he will be back in the regular season. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. I have my opinion on that. So, Ryan, do you want to hit on that any further on what you think?
Yeah, I think Danny's mid-season. I would expect him maybe mid to late January, if I'm guessing.
No.
And I mean, he might hold him out after All-Star break. I'm not sure, yes. But I would think they would want to get a decent chunk of minutes for him before they just throw him into the playoffs. If we're in that picture. But I thought Danny's was one of the more interesting interviews, besides everybody calling him old without calling him old. because I'm more like Daniel's the conversational guy. Like he's the sales rep. He can rub shoulders with people. I'm more of an observer. And I like to watch first and then kind of react. And Daniel can just like make friends with somebody right away. So Daniel's strong suit is that, and I kind of have to be introduced and then I'm fine. Like that's just kind of my personality. So what I got most out of this whole thing was just observing certain players because you just don't get the general feel, just from little clips of interviews. Like you really get I got a much better sense about players from being in the same room, hear them respond to questions and how they reacted to stuff. And Danny Green's was, I thought, pretty telling. Like he was happy to be there. He knows Taylor from before. But the biggest thing he kept bringing up was maturity, which is interesting because that is, I mean, certainly they're younger players who are uber confident and should be, being a 2 seed in the West. No one expected that. But he kept bringing it back to this sense of maturity that he's trying to help instill among this younger group. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I definitely think Danny Green's going to play. I'm not sure in what capacity. I would assume it's in a bench type role. I certainly wouldn't think that he would start unless there's some other devastating injury to the top 5 or 6 players. But Jaron was just kind of like, y'all are going to be happy, and wouldn't really give any more than that. So Kleiman had said that he's on track. He's not ahead of schedule. We're not going to rush him back if he's not 100%. So I think the original timeline for that was like December or the 1st of January was like the original thing. But everything that's come out since from other people is that it's not serious. It's not as big a deal as people are making it. And all indication from Jaron was that we're going to like when he comes back. So there's plenty of theories and guesses on what that is. But my indication from the way he was talking is that this guy might be back by week 2 or 3 of the NBA season. Like the way he was kind of talking and reacting to questions that were asked to him about his return.
Yeah. All right. So let me hit on that real quick. So yes, I think that he is able to be an NBA player in 3 weeks, right? After the season starts. We know this Grizzlies like front office and we know who they are. They want you to be ready to play. And then for the next 2 weeks, they're going to just double check. Like there is no way he is playing before like the middle of November. Like I know that he would be missing, let's just say he misses 20 games. I think really like that's realistic. Like we were saying he might be back by Christmas. And now we're saying that he's going to be back mid-November. Like I don't see our front office like allowing that to happen. So yeah, I don't think there's any way at all that he comes back. And I'll do a hot take. I don't think Danny Green plays any kind of important minutes, big minutes for the Grizzlies ever. I think he's a 15-minute guy when he plays. I don't think he's ever going to do anything other than go in, try to hit some shots. He'll be playing less minutes than John Conchar.
I could see that being the case, but I think it'd be awesome for them if they could get Danny Green playing.
He's not good. We saw him in Philly. He was not good. He was not good. He's not good.
If he's not good, then he won't play like you're saying. But that's what I'm saying. If he could get any semblance of what he was, like just being able to hit shots consistently, knock down shots consistently, play some defense, just a little bit of it, that's good for this Memphis team to have a guy that's a veteran like that on the floor. Now, if he's not able to, then yeah, he's not able to. Then he's not going to be good and he won't play. But would it be ideal for the Grizzlies if they could get some form of that, even if it's just the 40% three-point shooter, the 39% three-point shooter? That's good for this team.
But he's 35 coming off of a very big injury, especially that age. Like Jamal Murray literally didn't play a full season with the same injury. Just saying.
Yeah,
no one's disagreeing with you, but I'm saying if they could.
Yes, you are. I can see it in your eyes.
No, I'm disagreeing with your pessimism. which is why I have to be here for the personality flair for the dramatic that we talked about beforehand. Yes, of course it's a long shot that he would be able to play this season. I'm not saying that. I'm on the record. I have tweets out there talking about how washed he was last year. I'm not arguing with that.
So then why are you being the
because if he
optimist?
because
he's
he
not,
still
like,
shot,
he's washed.
let me look at this. He still shot 39% from three last year. Hold on.
I don't think he shot that well, but I do think he is kind of primed to be the DeAnthony Melton type role. Like, he's not going to be the running gun, version.
38% on the dot.
That's
he can
surprising.
play 15 minutes. Cool. He won't
And knock down
contribute.
4 threes. Sure, that's great. I'll take that out of Danny Green.
As long as he is not a turnstile on defense, that's fine. And I think he's okay in that role. But I don't want people to get too crazy. Like, I like Danny Green. I like him as a shooter only, 3-and-D guy, right? But 15 minutes is his role. He's never going to contribute in a major way. He might hit a big shot, maybe 2 throughout the year, and that is it.
Yes. Yeah. We are on the same page. I'm not wanting him to sit there and be a 20, 25 minute per night player, but wanting him to get in and get minutes. Because when you say he's not going to play any important minutes, I see Danny Green be able to come in the playoffs, play 15 minutes, knock down threes for a team that can use the 3-point shooting as important minutes. And I think he can do that. And I think getting him in the regular season beforehand helps that cause. So do I think he's going to be back in January? No. But do I think they try and work him in after the All-Star break to get some of that going? Yeah, because that is helpful to this team. Now, I'm not saying he's going to play more than John Conchar. I don't believe that. He won't be. I don't think he'll have the knees to do it. I don't. But is he going to be able to play important minutes? Yeah, I think he could play important minutes for this team come playoffs. So, yes. Yes.
No. I don't agree, but let's move on. Hey, and we did have DC ask, is this the second time he's blown out his knee? I don't know.
I want to say they were different knees, but I don't remember.
I don't know that answer, so I don't just want to answer your question, DC, but I actually do not know that.
All right, let's move on to Nate's next question. Nate's next nugget. No, this is a genuinely good question. BC and Dylan Brooks. Listen, they're all good questions, but I have to convince Daniel that I actually contribute something here, even though I freaking held down the fort for months. Lost sleep. My wife almost left. It was terrible. She didn't almost leave. We were good. But with BC and Dylan Brooks, so there's been a lot of question marks around both those guys. And the vibe I got from DC, we're going to come back to, I'm going to look it up here in a second. From Dylan was he knew that he sucked, but he didn't seem like he was about to adopt the role that we were hoping, that I was hoping at least, he was going to adopt in the offseason. And then with Brandon Clark, the talk around the extension seemed like the extension was going to get done. But there's a weird comment where he's like, I don't know what to say in these discussions. I can't remember exactly what you put out there.
He pretty much, like, he was being asked the question of, so, where are you at on this extension and signing it? And he was like, honestly, I don't know what I can say and what I can't say to not get in trouble. Gotcha. So he just tried not to say anything. And so, yeah, he was being very, very careful. And my understanding, to answer that question first, and I'll let Ryan hit on Dylan Brooks, but Brandon Clark, he looked normal. We got absolutely zero out of him other than the contract situation. And my opinion, I think the contract is signed this week. I think by the next time we do a podcast on Monday, I think we'll have a Brandon Clark extension done.
Yeah, Ryan? I agree with that. I certainly believe that they're not close, or if not, have already signed it and waiting to announce it. Because he said he's very happy to be here, all that kind of stuff. So kind of read through the lines a little bit. And I certainly expect Brandon Clark to be back on a long-term extension. Dylan, on the other hand, the questions that were asked to Dylan didn't really. I mean, he was asked about, how he felt being involved in trade rumors all the time, and that he said that just means he's a hot commodity. And I'm not really sure if that really is the right connection to what he's saying for that.
Yeah.
But it was funny. It was a good response, right? But there was certainly no indication from me or from anything he said where anything's going to change for him in his role. I certainly don't expect him to take a back seat to what he has been doing in the past for the Grizzlies. Now, he was also not really asked that question about would he be open to playing a lesser role. He was more asked about playing the 4 if, they need him to play that in more small ball lineups. And he said, of course, he just wants to play after missing pretty much the entire season last year. But besides that, I got no indication that he plans to play a different role or to just be a corner spot shooter. I think you're getting the same Dylan Brooks that we've seen for the past 5 seasons, whatever it is now.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think anything is changing, especially since Jaren's out. Like, they're going to want offense from somewhere, and it's only going to be the same old Dylan, in my opinion.
Fun stuff. That's what we're all looking forward to. DC, I'm having trouble finding the past knee injury, so I'm still looking for it, but I haven't given up on you.
It's got to be with the Lakers, right? That's when he heard it before. Was it the Lakers?
I don't remember. I have no idea. I'll look it up on Basketball Reference here in a minute and see which season was short. With the rookies, did anything stand out with you guys on the conversation with the rookies? As more so along the lines of, does anyone seem more ready or more involved and engaged, as in they are sort of talking like they're going to have more of a role this year? The coaches have been working with them more, or is it sort of same thing? Rookies come in, do a first presser, you don't get much information, and move along.
Yeah, I think that it was telling with Kleiman probably the most when he was talking about the using the G League more to our advantage this season, because the G League has ever since it kind of became down the street in South Haven, there's been COVID for the most part has been the biggest issue, and they're now looking to use that to their advantage. And what does that mean? Who knows? We know that you can't play more than half a season up there with the main team. But I do know that they're not going to have some of these guys play, if any, play that many games on this team. So I think you're going to see Jake and Roddy be on the main squad for the most part all year long. I don't see them going down and playing with the hustle unless they haven't played in 3 weeks and they really just want to go get them a game in. I don't even know what that would entail. But I do think Vince Williams will be down there all year long. He definitely looks young, very young. He probably looked the youngest out of all of them. And I don't know if that was to you, Ryan, as well. That's one of your guys. But I know Kennedy Chandler expects to be down there. And with the contract guarantee, I think this is an easier way of doing it. You're putting Kennedy Chandler down there saying, hey, you're going to be down there 95% of the time. We'll bring you up different games where you can sit on the bench when we have a spot. But for the most part, his contract is guaranteed. He's down there looking to develop and get better. And so I think that's pretty much telling. And then Junior, they always made a case to say we have 5 rookies this year. People kept saying the 4 rookies we drafted. And he's like, no, we got 5 rookies because Junior was, he's one of their rookies. And I think he's probably more important than Chandler and Vince Williams 100%. I'd almost say he's just as important as probably Roddy is after seeing Roddy in person. What say you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think 4 out of 5 will be mostly hustle players this year. And I think David Roddy is kind of like break glass in case of emergency type rotation player for the Grizzlies. I think Jake LaRavia is a real dude. And I don't certainly expect him to, play heavy minutes to start, but I certainly could see him being a larger rotational player by the end of the year. I just think the guy's a player. And that was one of the biggest things I got out of the press conference was just his general confidence. Like the dude, I asked him a question, and I don't know if he got pissed off at me about it, but I basically asked him, Grizzlies ask you position 2 through 4, small ball, where you're willing to play. And he's like, I'll play, I don't care. And he said, I can ball. Like, I can play. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I believe that. And certainly we saw it in the first game of Summer League, and he's kind of explained what happened after that. I think that's a Grizzlies thing, 100%. Like I love conspiracy theories. I did a crazy one over the summer. Jake showed out in that first game in Utah, and then I think the Grizzlies staff and execs and then told him to stop. Like relax, because he's mentioned in other interviews he turned from go get mine, you saw what I can do, to I'm trying to see what I'm pretty sure he said, quote unquote, I wanted to see what other Grizzlies, like I wanted to get other guys involved to see what they had. So to me, that's just a coaching staff thing. Like, bro, we know what you can do. Don't go out and hurt yourself. Get everybody else involved. And that's why he wasn't super aggressive the remaining of Summer League to me, and was more passive and passing. But I think the dude can play. And I thought that from the beginning, thought that in Summer League after game 1, and I think they put him on the shelf. Don't get injured, but you got to be there kind of thing, I think he's a real guy, and I don't know how much that means for this year, but I think they found a real future strong rotational piece like Zaire.
Wow. Sweet. I love hearing that. Last thing I've got, and neither one is super serious. Did you confirm with David Roddy that he recognizes us as the official David Roddy fan club? Like I hoped you would, and Loki expected you would, even though I never asked. I just assumed you would ask. And 2, what was each of your favorite question asked today? Whether it was just a great question, not by Danny G, or if it was just a funny question. Because I've heard that someone on this podcast may have asked a pretty good question as well. So those are my 2 things to wrap it up before I let you guys take it over.
Yes. So David Roddy Fan Club, we did not ask. And the funny thing is about the way the press conference went is early on, Kleiman gave us 15 minutes, Jenkins 15 minutes. I want to say everybody else was early on. It was a good 10 minutes, a solid 10 minutes. And sometimes probably a player went 15 minutes. But after the first 4 or 5, it was literally like as long as a car wash. Like you go into the car wash and you're sitting there and you're getting your wheels shined, and there's going to be the extra wax that comes on you. And then it says, you go ahead and wait, ease out. That's literally what was happening. One player comes in, they're gone in maybe 5 minutes. And so you got to think there's not many questions to be had. And then, there's always that, that one guy that asks that same question every time. There's a guy near us that asked the question to every single player, and he was mainly the first guy, and he asked some of the dumbest questions I've ever heard in my life. So yeah, there weren't many times to be able to ask questions to everybody, and the questions that were asked were so dumb that I was trying to figure out how to tweet what they were talking about out. And so I had to delete most of probably my life during that time in there, but half the time I was deleting the text. So yes, so that was my time in there, and we did not have a chance to ask the David Roddy Fan Club question. But Ryan, I'll let you go. Your favorite question of the day, and then don't share your first one because I think your first one's the funniest one. So any of your questions that were your favorite?
Well, if the first one's about me, then yes, it's funny. But no, my favorite question of the day was when Junior was on the podium. And I mean, the poor guy got fat shamed to death.
Oh my God.
I mean, he literally was asking a question if anybody in high school had told him to not eat as much. Like that was a question that was asked to this man.
That's a real question someone asked him?
A real question. And I mean,
I'm pulling it
that
up.
might not be word for word, but I'm pretty sure it's about just like that. Like, did anybody ever tell you to not eat as much? Like,
Good God.
like someone literally asked him, what age did he start to get the pounds? It's like, what does this matter? So
It's
that
an
was
absurd question.
the funniest question to me. Yeah, that was probably my funniest thing because I was trying not to die laughing at it.
All right, so I have the clip. I'm gonna try to play it. Motion to me if you can't hear it, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn my stuff up, and I'm gonna shove this into my mic. We should be able to hear it. But this is Jarvis Greer asking the question to Junior.
Right here. So obviously you're a big dude. You come from a line of big people, and your game is a big boy game. Tell us a little bit about how you developed that. Did the body come first? Did the game come first? Which one?
Well, up in high school, I wasn't that tall. I was only about like 6'2". Going into my senior year, I grew to about like 6'6".
He's trying to explain himself.
Ever since I was playing point guard in high school.
Wait for the next question.
All 4 of my years played point guard, and just mainly did everything. Got to college, and my coach was just hollering about I need a 4 and a 5, and need somebody to play. And I was like, Coach, I'll play. No worries. And I just knew post moves, so I just did them, and I just adjusted to the game and just added everything I had, and just put it in one bag and used it.
When did the pounds come?
I'll say.
He's got one more. Don't worry.
Like senior year of high school, I was a lot more comfortable before I got to college, and I was just eating, and I maintained it, going out through college, and where I'm at now. So I feel great, and just energized and ready to play.
Did anybody tell you not to eat? You're too big. That's enough. We don't need any more.
I didn't really focus on what like other people had to say, because once I got on the court, I was gonna give you the business either way. That really didn't matter. So,
dude, that is just so incredibly funny, to the fact that he asked the question, did anybody ever tell you not to eat?
Hey, great answers though. Great answers though.
Oh, this didn't happen in the press conference, but my brother was actually working down there doing video stuff, video shorts for the Grizzlies. And what's our language policy on this? No language, or
yeah, I would just give like maybe effing, like say that.
Family show.
Yeah.
So my brother, he was doing a spot with Steven Adams, and the producer made Steven Adams change his shorts because I guess his shorts are too big or something for the shot. So he gave him a different pair of Grizzly shorts that were too small. And Steven Adams turned to my brother and said, "These are a little small, mate," like his kind of thing. And he's like, "How do I look in them?" And my brother, without skipping a beat, said, "They're a little tight, but you can pull it off." And Steven Adams called it and laughed and turned and said, "You effing wanker."
I love it.
Yeah.
That's golden.
Yeah, that was great. There wasn't really anything, like favorite stuff. There was nothing like funny. I really wanted to. I raised my hand to ask Desmond Bain the honey bun question. My question was going to be simply, can you share a little bit of insight on your nickname from college, Honey Bun? And I would literally, I raised my hand to ask it. And that was one of the parts. It was like a 2-hour window where they were coming and going so fast that they kind of shut us off on questions. And so, didn't have a chance to actually ask that question. But I was next. But somebody else was given the last question, so I wasn't able to do that. But Ryan, so I want you to kind of share your first one. So Ryan this is me and Ryan's first time ever being a part of any media, whatever. I talk in front of people a lot, and so it's not that big a deal for me. It was a big deal, obviously, but it wasn't that big a deal to talk. Even though my first question, I was very much like Ryan. I was very nervous, but it wasn't as bad. I asked the question to which it was about music, and I asked Jaron, So within your music, how important is your music to you personally, but also mentally? And I literally got zero answer out of him because I think he was so confused about the question that it was probably me, and maybe he couldn't hear me because it was my first question and I was probably nervous. Or I know I was nervous. So who knows? But Ryan, share yours because I think it was very, very funny. And listening to it back,
Yeah.
it's not as bad. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was good.
Yeah. So I, Daniel kind of like with Kleiman when he came up, he was like, "You gonna ask a question?" I was like, "No, I'm kind of waiting for Taylor." And like I was nervous in there, and I've talked in front of people like basketball coach. I'm better in small group. I'm not a big group person. That's just not my thing. Okay. It takes me a second to kind of get warmed up, and once I'm warmed up, then I'm fine. But so I put my hand up. Let me get a question into Taylor, and as soon as she recognized me as and started bringing me the mic, I was done. And I mean, all of a sudden, I went from a normal person sitting in front of the couch watching TV to someone in cardiac arrest. And I tell you what, man, I could not hit my ears like I went deaf. Like all I could hear was my heartbeat. And I don't, it's just one of those things. Like I have a social anxiety problem. That's just what it is until I get, until I do it once and then I feel comfortable and I'm fine. But that initial thing, it's every time I do something that's brand new, it happens every time the first time I do it. So she handed me that mic and like I probably looked like I had the shakes, dude. Um, so then finally it was my turn and I asked Taylor the question and I knew as soon as I started talking, my voice was done. But instead of taking the second to like clear my throat out and then be fine, my mind's just like keep pushing. So it felt shaky to me, but I thought I had a good question. But the question was basically, how important is it for you to start, hot to the season with 6 of the first 8 being on the road? And does that mean that there'll be a more minutes load on the top rotation? Or do you still plan on employing, a 10 to 12 man rotation kind of restricting minutes? Which I know is probably too deep of a question for a press conference like that, but I'm interested to see what they'll say to it. And I basically got the coach speak answer, which I don't remember most of it because I basically blacked out. But I haven't listened back what his answer was from when Daniel recorded it, but it was just like, ask my question. I could feel my voice break and it was like gargly, but my mind was just like push through. And so I just kept asking the question and could not hand that mic back fast enough. And then just kind of took me 30 minutes to quit having heart palpitations.
I'm proud of you.
But I did it. I'm good. And then when it got to Jake LaRavia and I asked Jake the question, I was fine. But it's always that first one.
That's so fair. That's very real. I was thinking about it when you guys went. I was like, man, I wish I could be there, but also I'm kind of glad I'm not there because I don't know how I would handle that. So that's real. That is a good question, though. If you got it out in real full sentences, that was a good question.
It wasn't as bad. I actually let my wife hear it last night, and she goes, "That wasn't as bad as you made it sound." I go, "Yeah, I literally being there next to him, you could hear." And you might not be able to hear across the room, maybe through the mic, but literally sitting next to him, I could hear his voice not pushing out words at times.
Oh, dude.
But
just the pure terror. I've got an event I got to speak at for work next week. We'll see. I'll probably have the same story on after that, so you won't be alone.
Yeah.
We'll ask you to record it so we can all hear.
There always has to be one, so I'm glad to be that one. But I jumped in all 10 toes. So
you were all in the deep end, drowning.
Love it. We need to be resuscitated.
Yeah, it was great. And we got the typical Coach Jenkins answer. He said a lot to not say anything. So pretty much training camp will figure that out, and they plan on going as normal. So
day by day is about all I remember. Yep.
That was his answer. All right, so that's pretty much all the Grizz Media stuff. If anybody else has questions, feel free to ask in the chat or just kind of reach out to us directly. I think everybody's pretty much covered it. There's nothing that stands out that's just kind of crazy funny. And so I'm going to go into our last thing before we get out of here. We're 45 minutes in, so let's kind of start wrapping it up. You know what? Before that, let me give my Zach Jaworski State Farm spill before we do our last thing. That's probably the best thing to do because they pay. I cashed the check actually today. Forgot that I had it. My wife told me about it this morning, so it cashed. So we can officially call them a partner, right? No, but if you don't have insurance at all, or if you're looking to kind of upgrade any kind of insurance, whether it be, your house, if you're looking for that, if you're looking for personal insurance, you're looking for, car, boat, your jet skis, you need to insure your jet skis. Go check out Zach Jaworski State Farm. They have 2 locations, one in East Memphis, the other one's out in Collierville. A great team there at both locations. The main location they have is the one in East Memphis. That's where they are. Probably that's where their biggest crew is. Their phone number there is 901-459-4227. You can even get a free quote at ZachInsuresMemphis.com. But go check those guys out. They're good. They've been mine for forever. And so they will make sure that they're honest. And that's really all you can get with somebody that's kind of taking your money, right? And you're getting a service. You don't actually know if you're ever going to use it. But, it's one of the rules in life that we have to have insurance on certain stuff. So
we got to get you a script.
Yeah, go check out Zach Jaworski State Farm. I feel like these are great. No matter how bad it is, I feel like they're probably going to be known the most because they're so bad.
Like Daniel said, they don't suck.
They don't suck.
So if you want to trust somebody with your insurance, you want someone that doesn't suck.
Yep, and I don't think they suck. So speaking of not sucking, who's not going to suck at training camp?
Oh,
family show, guys. Danny G, get out of here. Bring Daniel back.
Training camp projections. I'm looking for the guys that aren't going to suck and they're just going to still be on the team. I think that we're going to obviously have the normal crew. I don't think there's going to be any surprises. Nathan, for you, any surprises that comes out of training camp that you can kind of foresee?
No, I mean, I think the one that has the best chance is what we talked about a little bit earlier, Santee coming out and really showing out and having a real role. I think that the rookies, as far as playing time, I don't think there'll be any surprises. I think we're all pretty clear. It's probably LaRavia, outside chance of Roddy being able to work his way in there. But I think the biggest surprise would be Santee taking on a major rotation role. And that's the one that has a real chance of pushing through. Outside of that, I think we're pretty clear on everything. I don't think there's a ton of question marks around the team.
Ryan?
Yeah, I'm most interested in John Conchar, what he looks like and what his rotation spot is. Because, I mean, I love a guy that spits out stats, and he mentioned that he only attempted 1.8 threes a game last year. Yeah. So by all indication, mentioning that in your own press conference, this man plans on firing. So I'm very interested to see is he now the guy that steps in DeAnthony Melton's role? And he's the 4 or 5 3 attempts a game in that kind of run and gun position that DeAnthony Melton was. And if so, I'll be looking at a lot of props to play on John Conchar over. So I think a lot of my press conference stuff was finding out little nuggets I can use in in a gambling sense.
100%.
I don't expect there to be a lot of John Conchar over 0.5 threes lines out there, but if there is, I will be hammering them until I go broke. But that was my indication that Conchar is going to have a little bit larger role. And he's going to be much more active, and he's going to be pursuing more shots, more threes specifically.
Yeah, he talked about signing that new deal with Nike, and that he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to wear Crocs anymore because that's kind of his thing, because they both offer shoes, and so he wasn't sure if he could do Crocs. But he did make a point to say that I will be shooting more. And so I'm kind of interested. Something else I'm interested in seeing is I guess a battle is I'm looking for the backup 5. And I think that's going to be Xavier Tillman and Santi Aldama. And I've already wrote down my projections on who I expect to play and be in the 10-man rotation, because I believe that Taylor is going to do a 10-man rotation no matter what. Like, he's going to have his 10. I don't think there's going to be more than that. I don't think he ever goes into more than that unless for some reason he's playing somebody 8 minutes the first half, somebody 8 minutes the second half. I don't know why you would do that. It doesn't make sense to me. So I would think he's going to go with his full 10-man rotation. He's not going to go less. We do know that, especially how deep this team is. So my next question with this, because that kind of brought up in my mind the Aldama and Xavier Tillman battle, because they're battling to really see who's that 10th spot or who's the backup big behind Steven Adams, because I think Clark is more the 4. So, yes, you can go either way. It doesn't matter. He's one of the bigs if you really want to go, positionless basketball. But let me ask y'all, and we're going to get these 4 out of the way. Ja, Bane, Brooks, Adams, right? Starters. Okay. So give me your next 6 guys. I would imagine we can probably all agree that Zaire is in that, right? So he's probably starting or coming off the bench. Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark. Okay. That gives us 7. Is everybody in agreement that we have those 7 guys playing considerable minutes?
Definitely. I got Zaire starting while Jaren's out.
Right. All right. So that's 7, right? So we got 7. So give me your other 3 guys that you see playing. Obviously, Jaren is out, so we're not including him. Jaren will obviously fill a position. Whoever's in that will be moved down, and then somebody moved out. And I think that figures itself out in a month of games. So give me your next 3 guys. Nathan, go first.
I've got Conchar all but a lock to be in there, especially while Jaren's out. It just makes sense. And I really think year long, unless you have someone like Roddy really come along that pushes him for that spot. So I'll have Conchar. We already got BC in there. And then I'll throw in probably Laravia, because in that second unit, let's say Zaire's starting. You got Tyus, 1, Conchar, 2. Then I would say Laravia, 3, BC, 4, unless they decide to go super small, in which case you would throw maybe like a Roddy in at the 4 and then have BC at the 5. But I would say Laravia, 3, BC, 4, and then that same battle, Tillman or Aldama at the 5. And I lean towards, I'll say Aldama at the 5. I think he has a chance to really play.
So hold on,
because he has the upside.
This is officially the David Roddy fan club. You don't have David Roddy being in the 10-man rotation.
I'm not saying I think it's the right call.
I'm asking you your question. If you were the boss, you're doing this. Who do you have? I need 3 guys.
I put Laravia in.
So you have Conchar, Laravia, and who else?
Say Aldama.
Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, I have Conchar, Jake, and I have Tillman. I certainly think Santi will get his chances. I think Xavier and Santi could be interchanged based on the matchup. If they need somebody that's a little bit bigger body to go against backup 4s and 5s or whatever, then Xavier gets the spot. I think it's more matchup based between those 2, but I certainly think Xavier is higher up on the ladder of getting playing minutes than what Santi is.
Yeah, I'm curious how this all goes, especially the first game is Saturday. This upcoming Saturday against the Bucks. It's an away game, it's a preseason game, so nothing to freak out about. I would imagine that we're going to see the 5 starters play. I don't know why, unless somebody's kind of held back from some kind of injury. But I think you're going to see them go with, your main guys, and you're probably going to play maybe a quarter or so. So I'm not sure exactly if we get any telltale signs just yet, But I think it's going to be important to see who the first people are off the bench. I think you're going to still see, Tyus and, Conchar. And so I'm curious, if it is Conchar, Jake, and Aldama, I'm very curious with that. And I think the only way that maybe that happens and there's no like buzz around it is because Xavier Tillman, from my understanding, was sick during the media day. So he was not around at all. He did some pictures the prior day or 2 days prior. There wasn't much talk about it. They did not make an announcement. I'm guessing it's probably COVID related, or if it just could be any sickness. But usually when there's no comment about it, it's usually COVID related. Because that's obviously a pressing issue. But I'm going to join you, Nate. I wrote down Conchar, Jake, and Aldama. I just don't see Tillman really being in there. I think Tillman is fine. I just think they're going to go with upside. And I think Tillman's the security blanket. I think he's good, not great. I think he's a guy that you can have as a backup. You don't pay a lot of money, and he's your 11th to 13th guy. And you're okay with that. So
exactly. I think Tillman's 11. He's a perfect 11 guy, go to in an emergency spot, but you're going to go with a guy who you think can fit more with the overall scheme of what you want to do with the huge upside. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, that's all I got. Nathan, what else do you have?
Yeah. So I do want to ask just on the David Roddy thing, because I do think Roddy has a chance to push maybe Conchar for that spot. I don't think he will really push him out of it, but I think that's his best chance to play. But what do you guys think, as the official David Roddy fan club, is his best chance of getting on the floor this year? Because I saw a lot in Summer League I really liked. It's hard for me to push anybody out of the lineup right now to fit that spot for him, unless he was out playing Jake, which, based on what you guys have been saying and the vibe you got from the press conference, doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. So what would you guys think is the best chance for him to play this year? Because I would say it's either pushing Conchar for that 2 spot, or if the Grizzlies decide to go small and play BC at the 5.
Go ahead, Ryan.
The only way he plays, I think, real minutes is if there's injury. I just don't foresee him overtaking some of these guys. Based on what we see in Summer League, I think he's going to need time. So I think the only real way that he gets real minutes, not just garbage time minutes, is if there's significant cluster injuries to the guys ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm on record. Yes, I do like David Roddy, and I do embrace the David Roddy fan club. But to say I've seen it, Nathan, I have not seen it. I think it's there. I think there's something brewing. I haven't seen it with David Roddy. But I also go back to, asking the question, like, can David Roddy out rebound John Conchar? I don't believe so. And I know that some people might probably disagree, but John Conchar finds the basketball. And I think he is going to be your new Mr. Do Something, because he's going to have more opportunity. He had 17 rebounds in a game once. Okay, let's just completely clear the air. I think that he will shoot a little bit more. John Conchar will. I think David Roddy's a bigger body, but me and Ryan both, after just kind of our same sentiment for after seeing David Roddy, is he's really not that big. He's not tall. He really isn't that wide. Like, he's a good sized dude, but man, John just looks so long, and I was very shocked of that. And so I don't know. I'm not looking at their sizes right now, see who's taller or what, but I don't know. I think that is the right spot for him to try to beat out John Conchar, but I don't think there's any way, especially with a new contract with Conchar.
Yeah, I think Conchar, I tend to agree. The best spot is if they go small. I think that is the other best chance without an injuries for him to push Conchar. I don't see it happening. The way I like to describe Conchar with relation to Mr. Do Something is you're not going to get all of the Mr. Do Somethings, but you're also not going to get the wait, no, don't do that thing
right.
that you got with Melton. So I'm excited to see Conchar play a big role this year. I am pretty pumped.
Yeah, Conchar is supposed to be Conchar is supposed to be 6'5" and Roddy's 6'6". So whatever that means to you, That's what it is. All right, let's get out of here. We've been in here for a full hour. We all got to go. I'm busy. You're busy. So let's go ahead and get out of here. So make sure you have a chance. Tell your friends about this. Subscribe, rate, review. If you're listening to this podcast, if you're hearing on YouTube, thanks for hanging out. But whatever you do, the most important thing you can do is be nice and tell your friends.